In this video, I'm going to show you how to rebuild your Whirlpool dishwasher motor. First, you need a pair of pliers to remove the capacitor from the chassis. Then, using a Phillips screwdriver, remove the 4 bolts that hold the chassis together. Make sure you press in very, very hard because the tip of the screw can get stripped pretty easily. Then you remove the top half of the motor from the chassis, like that. Then remove the impeller by twisting it, by holding in your right hand the motor and twisting the impeller counterclockwise. Then remove the plastic cap from the chassis. To remove the motor shaft from this part right here, use a hammer to tap on the tip of the shaft. It's always good to kind of put a piece of wood or something on top here, so that when you pound on it, you can protect the tip of the shaft so it doesn't get damaged. But in this case, I'm just going to demonstrate without that piece of wood or whatever, so it's for the sake of the demonstration. There you see the motor core with the shaft. Then with a flathead screwdriver, remove the little C-clip behind, located behind the bearing. Here's the C-clip. Then using a file, make sure file this all the rust from the shaft, so that way you can remove the bearing from the shaft later. Make sure you file very, very thoroughly so that all the rust is removed. Okay, and then once that's all the rust is being cleaned off, use a piece of metal with a little slit about the width of the shaft, so that way you can put the shaft inside the slit like that. Okay. Then with the hammer, again, use a piece of wood or something on top of this, so that when you're hitting on top of the shaft, it won't damage the tip. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and tap on the tip of the shaft. Then that way you will get you remove the old bearing from the shaft. Then put the C-clip back onto the shaft. Sometimes you might have to use a pair of pliers to bend it back, so that way it's tight when you put it back onto the shaft. Then with the new bearing, place the new bearing back onto the shaft and use a 9mm socket or something tubular, like similar like this, so that way when you put it in, it doesn't touch the outside part of the bearing, only the inside part, because if it touches the outside and you try to push it or push it in, it will damage the bearing. So just use something that is small, that is just the diameter of the inside part of the bearing. Then with a hammer, tap it until the bearing hits the C-clip that you put on earlier. Then with the new bearing, place the core back onto the motor casing. Put this part back, make sure that this part right here is on the same side as the capacitor. Then put the 4 screws back onto the motor. Make sure when you are tightening it, always tight opposite the ones opposite of each other. Tighten this one first, and then the one opposite side. To replace the seal from the seal on this motor, first remove the old seal from the plastic cap. Make sure you wipe the inside of this part right here. Sometimes it's very, very dirty. Just get a piece of paper towel or something and wipe it clean. With the new seal, make sure you put to help push it in, put some liquid soap around here, so that when you push it in, it will go all the way in. Sometimes you might have to use a flathead screwdriver to push it in, so that way the rim, the metal rim right here is all the way in and it touches the plastic part. Then for the ring part, just use the O-ring. Remove the O-ring from the impeller. Put the new ring onto the rubber holder. Remove this metal spacer from the impeller and clean out all the debris from behind the spacer. Make sure it's all clean. This spacer right here, once you put the motor in and the impeller in, if it's too tight and the motor won't turn, you can leave this spacer out and it will turn. Sometimes you need the spacers and sometimes you don't, depending on how tight the motor is. If it's too tight, then just leave the spacer out. In this case, I'm going to leave it in. Put the new ring back onto the impeller. Put the plastic cap back onto the motor. Make sure the arrow on the plastic cap lines up with the arrow on the body of the motor. Then just put the impeller back onto the motor by placing a screwdriver on the back end of the motor to hold the core, and then twisting the impeller clockwise onto the shaft of the motor. That's it. That's how you. That's all it takes to recondition a damaged Whirlpool dishwasher motor. Thank you.